I'm just hot off the heels of watching Gerald's game, and I decided it was interesting enough for me to at least make a little short video on it. But before I talk about my thoughts on the movie, I'm gonna go ahead and make a little announcement, and that is, while this is like a short video that I'm recording right now, I have already recorded and am in the process of editing a full-length video on Midsummer. It was requested by one of my subscribers, and it's my second favorite horror movie of all time, so why not? Remember, if you guys have any requests for me to do videos on, you can always let me know in the comments section. So I'll stop keeping you waiting, and I'll go ahead and talk about Gerald's game now. To begin, I'll let you in on the premise because it's a little silly. A woman, Jessie, and her husband, as the title suggests, named Gerald, are looking to have a weekend getaway to, sort out their issues as married couples do. On the drive over to their retreat, it's made very clear that the two have a major disconnect, which is accentuated when a stray dog is found on the drive, and the husband makes a point not to stop and help it, while Jessie really wants to stop and help the dog, as she sees the poor thing is hungry and needs food. The pupper does end up making a reappearance at the retreat house though, where Jessie feeds him a $200 steak and her husband scolds her for it. Alas, he quickly lets it go and introduces her into a little sex game that he wants to play with her in the bedroom. Gerald thinks it would be spicy if he handcuffed her to the bed and pretended to be a rapist. Unbeknownst to him though, Jessie doesn't like this, I wonder why. The two start arguing and Gerald has a heart attack and dies. If you haven't figured it out by now, the issue here stems from the fact that Jessie's still handcuffed to the bed. And that's it. That's the premise of the movie. So why did I find this worth my time, you ask? Believe me, I was wondering the same thing until I kept diving deeper and deeper into the film. See, there was a little more at play here. Everything I just described happened within the first 15 minutes of the movie. That means we have around an hour and a half more film left to watch. I quickly realized once all this happened within the first 15 minutes that this was going to be a character study. Jessie is left alone with her thoughts, hallucinations, a dog, and the Moonlight Man for the next hour and a half. It ended up being pretty riveting, and this is coming from someone who thought that the premise of this movie was stupid as all hell. Before I continue with my thoughts in this video though, I'm gonna point out the one glaring issue I have with this film. The whole time I was screaming inside because I knew that it would be easy in real life to just break the wooden pillars that she was handcuffed to on the bed. See, the film attempts to explain further why she can't get out, and it's supposedly because the bed frame is reinforced. Now, I really don't know what that means exactly. Let's think worst case scenario. Say the wooden bed frame has metal bars running through it. For one, I don't think it could possibly be that thick of metal bars, because the wooden pillars themselves aren't that thick. And even if she couldn't break them by pulling with the cuffs, she still has full access to her legs and could pull up and kick it off. After all, legs are way stronger than arms. I have even more theories about how she could have gotten out, but this alone irked me to no end. And no, I don't care how sturdy you tell me this bed frame is, there were plenty of shots where she was shaking around the handcuffs and the pillars moved, as if they were easily breakable, fragile parts of the bed. Alright, now that that major issue is addressed, I shall once again resume talking about the film itself. Okay, so Jessie is indefinitely chained up to the bed, logic be damned. And this presents several problems for her. Dehydration, loss of circulation every time she falls asleep because of the handcuffs, and she and her husband aren't the best at closing doors behind themselves, so the dog from earlier ends up coming into the house, meaning that as soon as the dog is finished with her husband's dead body, it's gonna try and eat her. The poor thing is starving after all, and it looks to be some sort of wolf hybrid, probably a German Shepherd. Long story short, Jessie needs to get off of this bed at the very most in 3 days, which is when she'll die of dehydration. As she's chained up, she is going through major hallucinations, one of which of her husband, and another is of herself, just a stronger version. And both of these apparitions talk to her throughout the entirety of the film. When she passes out and enters a dream state, she's always stuck revisiting the time in her childhood when she and her father watched an eclipse and he jerked off with her on his lap, in what was one of the most uncomfortable scenes I've ever seen in movies, and this is a trauma she's carried silently with herself her entire life. Now, because of her hallucinations, she gets a lot of bright ideas for surviving. She gets especially crafty at one point, using a tag from her new gown that she just bought that she left up on the shelf above her, as well as the cup of water that her husband had left there before dying of a heart attack. This way she could form the tag as a straw and reach the glass of water with her mouth to her hand. And up until a certain point, this is nothing but her and her thoughts with these hallucinations, and it's a big character study. Oh yeah, and the dog's still there chowing down on her husband's body as well. Now, the aspect of the movie that I'm going to talk about next is my favorite part about it, but it's also spoiler territory, so if you want to avoid spoilers, go ahead and stop the video now and come back after watching the movie. There's your warning, 3, 2, 1, okay. So throughout the film, there's this huge thing of like what's real and what's not, right? On the first night of her passing out, I believe it was, she awakens to the dog gone, barking from outside the house, and a tall, ominous figure standing in the corner of the room. This comes to be known as a recurring figure known as the Moonlight Man, and he's perhaps the scariest part of this film. Every scene he was in scared the hell out of me, especially the shots that portrayed him with glowing red eyes. His existence takes even more of an odd presence though as well, because when she wakes up after the first night, she sees what looks like a footprint on the ground. Her hallucination of her husband explains that he is death, and that footprint being there means that he's coming back for her as soon as night falls again. Super ominous. And just to make it extra clear, I don't want to downplay just how fucking scary he looks. Like, just fucking look at him. He's fucking scary. Anyways, now let's fast forward to the night Jesse ends up finally escaping from the bed. First of all, talking about the escape itself. I've already made it no secret that I think there's a lot of options she could have covered to get out of the bed. And sure enough, the solution she comes up with is the most convoluted and self-harming solution she could have possibly came up with. So she breaks the glass of water and uses the shards to cut her wrist open so that she can bleed enough to use the blood, which is super slick, to slide her hand out of the cuffs. And if that's not already gross or overblown enough for you, it doesn't even work all the way. She still ends up shaving off most of the skin on her hand and arm just to get the cuff off. I'm sorry, this scene pissed me off not only because this was the dumbest possible solution she could have came up with, but also because it was so gory and gross. Now, I've seen a lot of gore. I even talked about that cannibal movie, The Green Inferno, just before making this video, but all of that paled in comparison to how graphic this scene was, and I honestly almost vomited watching it. I had to look away. I had to walk out of the room as this scene played out because it was grossing me out so much. That's saying a lot, which brings me to more better solutions she could have came up with. So, first of all, she didn't have to slit her wrist for it. She already cut her hand enough when she broke the glass in her hand. Second of all, girl, think more clearly. You could have used the glass or something, even the cuff, because the cuffs are sharp too, to slowly shave away at the bed frame where it's too big for the cuff to go up anymore. Like, if you had done this for the first full day at least, you would have gotten out, girl. Literally, most of the movie was her just sitting there doing nothing and complaining about it, which was kind of ridiculous. Once again, even if there were metal frames inside reinforcing the bed frame, you still could have shaved off that outer wooden portion to make it small enough for the cuff to fit over it. But whatever, she's self-abusive, so she gets out by, destroying her arm and hand, and rightfully so is about to pass out from blood loss, as well as, the accumulated dehydration and whatnot. She passes out and wakes up that night to the dog eating her hand, of course, and she hits it away. As she's walking out and still trying to avoid passing out again, she sees the Moonlight Man in the house one last time. And I forgot to mention this, but for some reason the Moonlight Man seems to really love jewels. So on her way out, she looks at him and says the line, "You're not real, you're made of moonlight," gives him the wedding ring, and takes her leave. Jess is driving to go find help, but keeping conscious is still very difficult for her. She very clearly passes out and enters a dreamscape one last time, where she's met with the Moonlight Man and his glowing red eyes right before crashing into a tree. Luckily for her, the tree was right in front of a house, and help has finally found its way to her. 6 months pass, and she's writing a letter to herself with her right hand, which is the one that she tore up getting out of the cuffs. It's presumably never going to be fully healed, and it's physically and mentally hurting her to write this letter. But here's the really scary part. After the 6 months had passed, she found a news article explaining a man with bodily deformities that was a serial killer turned corpse looter, who used to target females but semi-recently had made a change to targeting males. And the most recent happenings that the man was a part of were taking body parts from corpses as well as jewelry. Jessie remembers seeing her husband's face mutilated when she finally broke off the bed, and at the time assumed it was just the dog. But she now realizes that entire time she was chained to the bed, there was someone else there. And that someone was obviously the Moonlight Man. This means when she saw him while she was awake each time, that was actually a real man there. He's been arrested and is on trial. And as her final act of closure, Jessie waltzes up to the courthouse, enters the room his trial is taking place in, and calls out to him. He turns around and tells her, "You're not real, you're made of moonlight," confirming to her that he absolutely was there when she was chained to the bed. I don't know what it is exactly, but there was something really haunting about this scenario to me, and I really enjoyed it because of that. And that is Gerald's game. Jessie has found a way to forge forward and better cope with the rapey scenario she endured with her dad. She realized that she traded in the shackles of silence that her dad caused her for shackles disguised as comfort with her husband. Both men objectified her, and she never truly knew either one. And it only took her being chained helpless to a bed for her to realize all of this. Or something. I don't know. Yeah, this was a really traumatizing experience, the whole being chained to the bed thing. And the film makes for quite an interesting character study. But honestly, I found the Moonlight Man to be the most interesting part. And I don't think that that's a good thing. Yes, it's good that it's in the movie, and I liked it, which gives the movie obvious points. But I think the character study could have been done a little bit better, to match how much I liked the Moonlight Man stuff. But I will say, the acting was phenomenal. At least for Jessie, her husband, and the Moonlight Man, which were the main people that we saw. But the child actor for Jessie and also her dad weren't that great. A special congratulations though to Carla Gugino, who pretty much had to carry the entire movie as her character of Jessie, since the movie is focused so intimately on her. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you saw the movie, let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Also, again, feel free to let me know what other movies you want me to talk about. My video on Midsommar will be coming soon, and don't forget to please like and subscribe. Before I go though, shout out to my patrons. You guys mean the world to me, and you allow me to keep going through this difficult time. If you also want to become a patron of mine, I have a link in the description as well as at the end of this video. Tier 1 patrons get these special shoutouts at the end of the videos as always, and Tier 2 patrons can submit topic of discussion or Q&As for me to talk about at the end of videos as well. Thanks for everything guys, and I'll see you all next time.